We're here at IHIF 2014 to catch up on all the news within the service department sector. Follow me.
Benchmarking in the service department sector. I guess from an STR global point of view, for a number of years now with our sister company STR in the States, we've provided benchmarking to mainly the hotel sector and in markets all over the world. We've had some call from the service department sector as they start to embrace revenue management and yield management within properties and in their central offices as well, to start to get some benchmarking reports in there and some competitor analysis and some market intelligence. We've also had call from some companies such as Savills, JLL, who look after the transaction side of things, who also want some data to kind of monitor where the service department sector is going and oversee the development side of things.
I'm very pleased. It's really interesting in the whole of the industry, and particularly here in Berlin. There's a growing sentiment, a growing interest, a growing enthusiasm even for this whole segment of extended stay and service departments, and there's a growing recognition on the part of hoteliers that, gee, this is a viable segment, it's something worth paying attention to. There's business here, there's development opportunities here, and indeed there's profits to be made in this segment. Kind of following what's happened in the States 20, 30 years ago, it's now coming to Europe, and my prediction is that in the coming years we'll see that momentum pick up pace, where in the States these days it's roughly 10% of the hotel market. It'll be a few years before it gets to that place in Europe, but to be sure it's going to be more than the low single-digit percentage part of the market it is today. It will continue to grow, and that's reflected in the kind of questions and the interest and the seminars and the people that are here. It's being talked about.
Well, it's actually really, really positive. I mean, we're at a general hotel conference here, but the service department sector plays an integral role these days, and it's getting more and more prominence and this, exposure. So there are several side panels running at the moment that are talking about alternative uses of buildings, alternative accommodation types, and that's where the service apartments are coming in, obviously. And I've spoken to a few bankers and institutional investors that are more and more interested in the sector themselves, so hopefully we're all going to see them at the Service Department Summit.
Well, IHG is really committed to Staybridge Suites. Right now we have 190 Staybridge Suites globally and a further 90 in the pipeline. So for IHG, the Staybridge Suites and the extended stay segment is a real big opportunity for us.
City Market has been going for coming up to 5 years. We are up to about 200 apartments in central London, and we are looking to get up to 1,000 by 2016, along with the rest of London, it seems. It's a very competitive environment at the moment.
For us as a sector, it's quite exciting. We're looking forward to try and find other developers to work with. We did a project recently in the city, actually, on the edge of the city, looking at a conversion of a series of office buildings, quite small buildings, but as a cluster, coming together as a series of service departments. We were looking at the operator's model for those service departments, and what we would like to have done, we would like to have elevated that to, say, a higher market sector. They had taken an existing series of small buildings and really created a series of smaller spaces. And I think from an ambitious point of view, we would like to work with that developer, found an operator who had a larger, more ambitious way of taking that site forward, perhaps actually retaining the facades and creating a series of larger service department types, which is very similar to the model we did at Grosvenor House, where we worked with Grosvenor House to replan the floor plate, create a much larger series of reorientated service department spaces, benefiting from daylight from an internal space that we actually created. We put a roof onto the internal light well, we created an internal atrium space with a kind of series of casual lounge spaces at a lower level, worked very closely with the interior design, and we think created a very successful for the high-end service sector for service departments. And we'd like to find other operators to work with to try and roll that model out. And I know it's going to be a challenge finding space within the city, and I think being more agile and creative around converting office spaces is something we'd actually like to look at in more detail and work with developers who are like-minded and operators to try and create a series of other successful models based around that. I think as architects we have the ability to take on challenging sites and reinvent those sites to release potential value through looking at how service apartments could be planned around those spaces. So I think for architects and developers to work quite close, it's quite an exciting sector, and we'd like to have that challenge taken forward.
In the whole service department extended stay segment, one of the biggest challenges we have is very rudimentary, very basic, the definition of what the segment is. I think we as an industry are very guilty of putting hotel jargon into it, and we call it, as we just did, extended stay. But if you go to a customer or a hotel developer and you talk about extended stay, they look at you befuddled and say, well, gee, no, we don't have extended stay. But if you talk to them specifically about, well, do you have project workers? Do you have temporary assignments? Do you have relocations? Do you have long-term training programs? All those things are terms and segments that they recognize. We as hoteliers talk about extended stay and expect that customers or developers or planners will understand what it means, and they don't. So we've got to find a new way to describe what it is we do. It clearly is a viable segment, but extended stay is a bit of hotel jargon that doesn't mean anything outside of this little closed community of hoteliers. It's a big challenge for us, is to define exactly what we are so that we can communicate it to those different constituencies, those different audiences we need to appeal to.
And now service departments is something that we're really starting to take seriously. The service department sector is really coming together, and that's through shows such as the Service Department Summit, bodies such as the ASAP, which are great in bringing the industry together. I think it's been one of the sectors which has been rather fragmented over the last few years, and that's maybe stunted the development of the sector. But 2014 and 2015 for me are going to be when the service department sector really flourishes, and if we can start to get the data for the sector and be able to provide that to the developers and to the operators, then it's certainly going to help take the sector forward. I have no doubt about that.
It's very positive. Everybody you speak to who understands the concept, they seem very buoyed by that. I understand that Savills yesterday released their report for the new quarter, and it's very upbeat, building on a very buoyant end of 2013. For those who aren't too familiar with the concept, I think it's a nice opportunity for us to explain it to them and to give them a better sense of an alternative asset class in the market.
Yeah, we're really committed to extended stay and the Staybridge Suites brand. We're beginning to see increased interest across Europe, particularly in the UK. This year we've just opened a brand new Staybridge Suites property in Birmingham, which is tremendous. And next year we're also opening Staybridge Suites in Vauxhall that we're really, really excited about.
We are a sponsor here, been here now a couple of years under Bridge Street and many years in different lives. So the future, in essence, for our space is clarification. And we are exhibiting here to share our 6 brands and the service department story and experience. And it's really a demand from both the industry and from the client base to bring clarity to a very opaque space. And that opaqueness is, we brought it out in 6 distinct brands, exclusive to studio, exclusive at the high end, studio at the 2-star level, to bring clarity to value, to bring clarity to price point, to bring clarity to experience. You're getting all the hospitality services of a global hospitality company, Bridge Street Global Hospitality, and that promise of clarity about what you're getting in your apartment and the services with it. A lot about London, a lot about the flight to safety for capital, which has really influenced a lot of investment decisions, particularly for operators like us and a brand like us. So really what we've done with our brands is focused on tiering that so we can bring different price offerings. Smaller footprints is definitely a new conversation. A new conversation are apart hotels, like the product we're opening in Birmingham, which has a food and beverage offering as well as a fitness offering. And equally, secondary markets like Oxford, Cambridge, and then mainland Europe, Frankfurt, Munich, Brussels, Geneva are good examples of strong markets, mature developers, and a key demand for our customer base, which fundamentally comes from the Fortune 500. So lots of opportunities here, lots of opportunities still in the US, and from a distribution standpoint, we're actually distributing now into over 63 countries. So that need for a service department experience is clearly in demand.